Hello, hello, hello. This is me, Sandi Saksena, and we're on Ignite with Sandi, my weekly program that I bring to you from the Celestia platform. And you know what? We are in a place where we find wonderful women from all over the world. And today, my guest is from Alberta, Canada. When I say from, means she's staying there right now, but she's an international person. So when I checked with her, she said that it was 9 a.m. in the morning. So I'm assuming she's having her wonderful cup of coffee while I'm sitting here in Dubai at 7 p.m. in the evening. So isn't that wonderful? Technology allows us to go everywhere. So what is Ignite with Sandy? Ignite with Sandy is a program where I interview women who have a very interesting story, women who have something to share. And in that, all of us learn something new. So I love fashion and I love to go for fashion shows. I also enjoy browsing at expensive fashion stores, but I don't always have the money, to buy those really expensive clothes. But yes, I do buy quality clothes. So, you know what? In fashion, I've learned, of course, there's the everyday stores and then there's those fancy stores where you walk in and everything has a big price tag. But there is another level above that. And those kind of clothes you don't generally see in a fashion showroom or even in an exclusive boutique. You know why? Because they are created specifically for an individual. So that's a completely different kind of fashion. And my guest is in that space because she has been involved in high fashion from Europe and other places in the world. And she has dressed very rich women and men. And she's going to share with us a little bit about her fabulous background. So I'd like you to welcome my guest, Jessica Garnetti. Hi, Jessica, and
Hello,
welcome.
Sandy. Hello, Sandy. It's a pleasure to be with you to speak
Okay,
on a subject that you love so much and to share it with the
absolutely.
listeners.
Okay, so Jessica, could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself? And I know you have an extremely interesting childhood, so let's start there.
Thank you very much. Indeed, I had a very interesting childhood. I come from a background of family who are all in some form of art, from music to paintings, interior design, fashion design, stage setting, table setting, food setting, gardening. My belated father was an oil painter who did some amazing paintings in oil and in watercolors. And my mother's side, they are a family of designers who had an atelier. They always worked with fabrics. They were always sewing. I remember my grandmother's old style Singer machine, the black one, which I wish I still have, but obviously from moving around, that's gone along the way. So I was raised in a family of either drawing or sewing or always doing something with the hands. And of course, the hands don't function properly without a very strong vision of having that innate passion. So it's in the DNA. As I grew up, I was surrounded by beautiful things. Everything had to be articulate, everything had to be proper, everything had to be set up, everything had to be pretty to look at. No matter how simple it is, no matter how big it is, no matter how small it is, it was a matter of bringing it to the limelight, making it beautiful, and enjoying the surroundings of beauty, even in something as simple as one stem of a flower or a beautifully decorated plate when you're eating, music that's always going on in the background, which opens your mind, opens your heart, opens your dreams, keeps you in a state of mind that is quite different because always you're using the visuals, sometimes seeing a lot of details which normally people don't see that much details, and it becomes an interesting part of life that never stops, always goes on, always changes. My
Yes.
sister is an amazing artist of all forms.
So
And
tell
we
me,
took it to the level of fashion design, and we took it to the level of many other diversifications.
okay, so Jessica, growing up in this very artistic family, always surrounded by the finer things in life, what kind of course of study did you pursue to graduate in?
All right. So in my course of study, I was very fortunate because I was raised in a way, not only from the school, which the principal had noticed as I was growing up as a child. He used to call me into the office when I was still very young at school, and he would say, "You're very different, and I think you need to pursue your artistic background and your artistic visuals because we see that you stand out as a child at school." And I continued that by attending an international school, which was called John Casablancas. It was an international, very, very strong school that belonged to John Casablanca. It was everything to do with retail management, fashion design, modeling, stage production, posture. It was diversified in that kind of category. And I did attend that special art school and graduated with an honors. And above graduating as an honors as an A++ student, I was very fortunate that also I was exposed to producing a lot and doing a lot for the school. And I was asked to even work for the school to help do more work for the new students that are coming in. And my sister and I both decided to do something completely separate, which is to open our own company, our own label,
Okay.
our own boutiques, and find our way through life,
So
travel the
where was
world.
this? Where did you open this boutique? Was it in the UAE, in Europe? Where was it?
We started in Canada not by opening boutiques, but by hosting some very, very beautiful fashion shows for private
Okay.
clients in five-star hotels, seven-star hotels. We used to import the fabrics from India and from the Middle East. We used to sew them here and do the shows. And after that, we found that there was limitations because of the geographical zones. We really needed to be in the heart of where everything is happening,
Yes.
physically and financially. And also, it's a very large, huge, open learning concept when you're in the heart of everything that's going and buzzing around you, like Camera Nazionale della Moda in Italy, the syndicate in France, the Parisian syndicate, the London, the capital cities, obviously, is always where there is more volume and more to learn. So we exposed ourselves in that way by being in Europe. After which we opened one of the first boutiques to ever open in the Emirates, because we had our first stores in the Emirates, pret-a-porter stores selling multiple super brands. We were one of the first boutiques to bring super brands to the UAE. We had moved there in 1974 or
Wow,
5.
that's many years ago.
That's many years
So
ago.
yes,
It was when
yes,
Dubai
yes.
had just gotten its independence. There were maybe only 3 boutiques, 4
So
boutiques.
you,
So
so you basically got in very early into the game and sort of established
very
yourself.
early.
Yeah, so you established yourself as a name, the go-to people who could create something out of, just a whole lot of fabric, right?
Oh yes, because we did the first fashion show in the Emirates, and there was 60 models that we exposed at that time. We were selling tickets. Nothing was ever without a fee, only because we needed to cover the cost to have the proper attendance, to have big dinners, to have everything served in Christophe silverware, very, very elegant, very high level.
So
And
then,
that took us from creating our own line, being Garnetti, but also it brought us a great stage and a good background to be agents for the super brands that are in the super fashion world of luxury.
Jessica, if I remember correctly, you used to be part of the Arab Fashion Council. So what was that about?
Yes, that was after 30 years of being established in couture in particular, because we had gone from designing, pret-a-porter, haute couture, all the different divisions of fashion. At that time, the Arab Fashion Council was a council that evolved out of the UK, and the goal was for the CEO to bring people on board that are experts and subdivision the Arab Fashion Week into different categories. So I was invited, and this was strictly as a non-profitable NGO, and I did donate my time for 7 years, being the head of
Wow.
22 chief of couture, 22 Arab countries, to teach, learn, open facilities to new upcoming designers that needed a stage, a podium to feature for the first time, to have international coverage, to have some buyers, to have Middle Eastern people around, to be exposed, and to have a stepping stone onto their next future. And at that time, I was also advising and teaching. I did
Where
give a
were,
lecture at the American University for the
okay,
students as well. So my job was really with the Arab Fashion Council was to bring my expertise and build a bridge with the new generation with the experience that I have of 30 years internationally. And over and above that, if there was ever something very, very exclusive happening with the board and they wanted to feature a very special haute couture, extremely grade A from the syndicate to come and be featured as an opening, I was able to contribute very big names and bring them on in Saudi Arabia, which was the first fashion show ever in Saudi Arabia that was done
wow.
with the Ritz
So,
Carlton a few years
yeah.
back. And I was
So,
able to sign up with Jean Paul Gaultier, who's someone that I work with and I love and I adore. And he's a big fashion icon. So we did a show with Jean Paul Gaultier that I had moved from Paris as is to Saudi Arabia. Richard Mill Watches came on board and they had their division, part of the Fashion Week. And of course, we had other upcoming from 22 Arab countries, their shows being featured back to back in a beautiful area that was done at the Ritz Carlton. So
okay,
I'm very happy to have been a part of that.
so what I would like to ask you, when you were teaching fashion and being the mentor for the designers and all, were they more male designers in fashion, in the fashion, or were they female, or was it equal?
From everything I can remember from childhood, of everything to do with fashion, it is equal. It's a mix of both. I think a designer doesn't have a criteria as to what, if it's male or female. And as the days have gone forward and society and media and exposure, there is no longer really a guideline as to how to address an individual. So it's no
Okay.
longer about male and female. Um, it's a question of how talented you are, how perseverant you are, how passionate you are, and how tolerant you are, because it's a very, very difficult and very
Yes,
turbulent business and a
quite
very,
true.
very expensive business to get into as well.
Quite true, quite true. So, talking about expensive business, so you and your sister were doing something on a smaller scale, and then you decided to spread your wings, and you came
Yes.
to Dubai, and then you expanded to Saudi Arabia. So, coming from on the one side is the creativity and the fashion, and the other side, and on the other side is the business, the money,
Oh,
the
yes.
budgeting, all of that. So who was the business minded person? Was it you or your sister or both?
Well, honestly, I was a business minded person because out of the family, I'm an artist and I sketch and I do all the art as well. But my PowerPoint is the business side. And this is something that I love to teach when I am teaching, is that people really think that talent alone works, but it's teamwork and you need team to make anything take off and work, because everyone has their power, they have their knowledge, their experience. It needs so many different departments to put it together. So I love the business side. I'm a person who loves people, first of all. And I'm a person who does not give up easily. Actually, I don't give up at all.
That's good to know. All right,
And
Jessica, what I'd like you to touch a little bit upon, because there are a lot of ladies, especially, who are dreaming of having a boutique, dreaming of having something to do with the high fashion, etc. And
yes,
sometimes they'll get clothes from somewhere and keep it in their store, or try to do something themselves. So, if anybody is trying to get into the fashion side, as
yes.
in retail or even bespoke or whatever you do, what would be some of the basic things that they need to do first before they can actually see that thing come to life? What are the important things that they need to look at from the business and the financial side?
That question really is a two-part question that you've just announced. Because opening a boutique, there are different kinds of boutiques, as you mentioned in the opening of this conversation. If they want to open a boutique and it's their designs, it has its management and its technique for business. If it's a boutique where you're bringing brands, it has another technique. If it's luxury and private, it has another technique. They do not resemble each other. And a lot of people mix that up. And they
Yes.
think that if you can do one thing, you can do it all. Or if you see someone who's very successful doing what it is that they do, that they can simply just copy and it works. And a lot of times I used to hear, not anymore, but when I had started the business with the family, I remember people saying, oh, you have such an easy job because all you have to do is dress up, fix yourself, wear heels, and people come to you. And it has nothing to do with that whatsoever. I mean, okay, your appearance is maybe what God has given us individually from our ancestors, our parents, whomever that person may be. We have the opportunity to enhance, to fix ourselves, to make it the best that we can. And the rest is really about character and what you do and how strong your mind, how strong you are, and how much you love what you do. So
Yes.
it wasn't really all
Yeah.
about appearance. It was about
Yeah.
business
I
and
think I
working
think
hard.
most Yeah, because most people think, because it's that high fashion, whatever, it's like, oh wow, as you
It's
said,
easy.
you just get up in the morning and enjoy yourself, relax in a spa or something, then get somebody do your makeup, and then
Right.
you dress up and you come out. Well, I think it's
Correct.
quite different, right?
Oh no, it's a real job. It's a hard job. It's very fast. It's very challenging. It changes very quickly. You
Yes,
have to be
that's what
up
I
and
want to
ready
talk
to work
about.
during
Yeah.
weekends, during holidays. No time on, no time off. There is no routine whatsoever. You have to give up a big chunk portion of your life to turn it into a success. And that, what some people would call a sacrifice, I would call a pleasure. And anyone that's in art or design of any form whatsoever, they don't call it a sacrifice. They call it a pleasure as well because it's what they love to do. And therefore, time stands still. And whatever you do, you love what you're doing. So you're not watching the time or the clock anyway.
Okay,
It
now,
becomes a part of
now,
your life.
So now the next question that I have for you, Jessica, is like, when you're in your space of, totally bespoke, and you sit with the person and you discuss what they want and what you can create and all. So that's a completely different level.
Yes.
Is there a lot of competition in that particular space? Because that's quite a different, much higher, and obviously, a lot of more money involved, etc. So do you find that there is a competition at that level between you and other designers, or is it more that the person uh, likes you, trusts you, seen your work, and that's why they want to work with you? Or do you really have to market that to them?
The best marketing strategy is reputation.
Okay.
That I still believe to date is the best.
Okay.
And I can honestly say that that works simply because when people now in today's age meet me who don't know who I am, and I don't say who I am, and I'm not a person who goes around flashing, I'm not a person that shows off, I'm not a person that flickers things around and me. No, I'm very low profile. I don't like to be in the forefront. I like to be doing my work and making sure that my work speaks for itself and I don't have to speak for it at all. Whether I'm acting as a representative for a grand designer where I'm doing grand work and it's very hard work, or any form of art. So nowadays people meet me and they say, oh, do you have Instagram, do you have social media? And I'm not against that. I think it's wonderful that we do have social media, but I don't that has never been the reason that I am where I am today, especially the last few years where technology is so big. And sometimes you're even being judged by the numbers that are on the screen, which to me don't mean anything at all.
Okay, so I was wanting to ask you a little bit about you do something with Garnetti weddings. So
Yes.
what is that?
All right. So Garnetti Weddings is really the very special haute couture with, as you were saying, the bespoke, the private, the unknown, the what is not exposed, what is not shown, what is not talked about, because it's like running a secret association with this very high level couture. One, you can't say who the clients are. Two, you cannot show the fabric. Three, you cannot take pictures. Four, you cannot share anything. Five, if anyone asks you, you don't know, you haven't seen it, you have no clue. So it's a lot of hard work, but the people that know about it are the ones that are involved directly, which are the private clients themselves and their attendees. So these are the people that know very well who's done the work, what's going on. And normally in a room, when it's a luxury of that level, if you're dealing with a client um, and you're doing something very, very special, which takes up to 6 months to create and to deliver, and for everything to be perfect, the invitee lists range from a minimum of 500 up to 3,000 persons. So already
Wow.
you have 3,000 persons that know who you are from your work that's being staged. So what do I need? I don't need to say anything really. It's the client, either they are extremely happy or they're not. And I've been very blessed that in all the history, everyone's been extremely happy. So that's really, in return, is the biggest honor and the biggest heartwarming feeling that you get is when you see the reaction in the eyes, when you get the reaction from a hug, when you get a reaction from respect. That is just the highest level of feeling that I could ever
Yeah.
experience in my life. And it's
You know,
beautiful, it's shared momentarily, but it's cherished forever.
I noticed there's a book behind you.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
my
What's that about?
okay, that's my pride of joy. Um,
Okay.
maybe
So it
just
can I know it's a private story, but can you tell us something publicly
yes,
about
of
it?
course, it's my pride and joy. But I have something that I've lived in my own bubble for all my life since I was a child. I used to write and put in a big trunk, and I've always written and put in trunks notes, ideas, feelings, philosophy, ideologies. And I always used to say when I was a kid, and when you're a kid and you tell your parents stuff, they kind of think, oh, cute little kid. They don't take it very seriously, even though they were encouraging, but it's like the little kid is dreaming. So I just tell them when I grow up, I want to write a book, but I'm not going to write one book. I'm going to write many books, and I'm going to start at that certain age. So everywhere I go and everywhere I've traveled, my head is in a bookstore or a music store, and I'm always seeking music, listening to music of every kind, books of every kind. And my library is so precious to me that I always had a number of when I wanted to release my first book, basically.
Okay.
COVID came, and when COVID came, I did fall incredibly ill. And I realized that time is not really what I thought it was in the past. Time for me was freedom. It was doing what you wanted and living how you wanted, and everything else is up to God. But then when I got hit with something so serious, I thought, in my mind, oh my God, I didn't have time to write my first book. And it started right there and then in 2020. So I have a very dear friend and colleague of mine, Lynn D. Mister. We exchange our experiences together. She's a famous author. She writes on fashion and art. She works in galleries and museums. She's an expert in art, which I adore because that's my other private life. And I'm an expert in couture. So we would travel together for art, where she would give me all her background, and then I would invite her to all the big shows in the world, and I would share with her my couture world and the luxury of couture. So I called her when I was ill, when I got my voice back finally, and I said, you know what, I've decided to start my book now. And she said, oh, I'm writing a book now too. And I said, what are you writing on? And she gave me the subject, and I gave her mine. And we said, you know what? Why don't we write it together? And brainstorm together and just make it fun. We don't want something serious.
So
And I,
what is the name? What is the name
and
of your
this is the
book?
book. So the name of it is My Boyfriend is Artsy, I'm the Fashionista.
Oh, wow. That's a nice, interesting title.
Yeah, it's fun. And the idea behind this book is very light and simple. The first half of it is a fictionist fiction love story
Okay.
between obviously a gallerist and a fashionista who's a journalist. And the story is fiction, but everything they discuss in the book are facts about the artists and the designers that they are discussing.
Okay.
I don't want to give up the story because
No,
I think
no,
it's
no.
interesting
Please
to read
don't,
it.
because
But that is the general idea of the first half of the book, which brings a lot of very grade A artists and designers worldwide. The second half of the book are interviews that are done with grade A designers and artists and how collaborations work together. And this is what I really wanted to feature the most because in couture, people don't realize it's not about fashion design only at the level that you had mentioned before that I'm working with, which is high level of art that is fabric, it's paintings, it's museums that come together to create a special piece. And that is when it is just the highest form of luxury possible. Because to get rights for anything that you do on a dress that is incorporated with artists is something remarkable. So we wanted this to be like a teaching code and an open mind for the new generation. The front and back of the book has a very lovely story and is precious because this is Benjamin Shine, and we wanted people to research names that we've put in here who are directly related to fashion,
okay.
directly, and they are international artists. They are in museums, they are in streets when you walk, they are in watches, they are in jewelry, they are in oil paintings, they are in every kind of art form, and they come together with designers. So the second half features a designer, how they work with artists, how the artists work with the museums, and how they create the dresses and the handbags in luxury. But more than that, it shows all the different forms of art in art and design for the fashion students who dream of being designers, but being a designer has so many divisions, and this opens their mind to the divisions that are possible of being artists because people are quite one mind track minded, and that's
Yes,
not how it works. You always
yes.
have to keep those blinkers off, and this book helps take those blinkers off because it shows that you can be an artist and a designer in the form of so many forms. It could be digital, it could be photography, fabric science, weaving, drawing, pattern making,
All kinds of
beadwork,
things. Yes. Okay.
beadwork,
Okay. So,
cutting.
Jessica,
The
you
divisions
mentioned
are huge.
you mentioned about technology and art. So, what
Yes,
is your view of that? Because things are
it's
changing quite a
amazing.
lot.
Oh, it's amazing. This is the part of technology that I must say, like, I have to go back to university to learn with how much advancement has taken place in the past few years. And it has helped the new generation create in a different way. It's a bit faster, which is great, much faster, not a bit faster. But also, you're able to get information and you're able to travel just by being on your laptop and getting all the creative ideas because not everyone can pick up themselves, go on a plane, and sit in a hotel and meet all the famous people or even not famous people just to get inspired by a culture, by surroundings, by colors, by nature that happen, and it triggers all these thoughts in your mind. So technology is amazing. It's amazing. They can even
I,
do the patterns. And as you said earlier, a place that is as rich cultures that go historically, like India, like Iran, like Asia. These are all places that handwork and beading is a part of customs that is thousands and thousands of years old. It's not something that was just done yesterday by a fashion syndicate. This all
yeah.
came out of
Okay.
somewhere and it came out of history. And this is what
Actually,
people need to learn. They need to open their minds. They need to open their eyes. They need to read. They need to see different divisions of art to be a
so
good
what?
designer.
Okay, so talking about the culture and the heritage and the fine arts of different countries in Asia and in Europe as well.
Yes,
What
everywhere.
would your advice be to up and coming designers? How can they help to take that art form to the next level and to preserve it and so it doesn't die out.
That is a beautiful statement, that it doesn't die out, because artisans now have become more of the older generation, or
Yes,
the older generation that has taught their children, and it's become a hereditary thing that goes on. For it to live on, designers need to experiment with themselves. What is their strength? They need to try everything. Even if they're really good at doing one thing, they may find that they're better at doing something else, or that they have multi talents that they are not aware of. So try and try, and don't try once and try again and try again and try again, and give it time. And if you don't like it, try again.
okay, so
And
talking
then you
about,
will find that you will be attached to a certain way. And if it is that beadwork and the handwork, that will become definitely something that is honored and that is passed down most of the times to the offsprings and the children, because it is surrounding all the time a child, and normally they want to play with something, and they end up playing actually with the embroidery and the beading and the crystals and all the colors and all the excitement. It becomes a toy to start with, and it ends up to be reality and beauty.
quite true. Okay, now there's one thing that is quite talked about these days,
Yes.
and it's how the fashion industry. Now, when I say fashion, I most probably should rephrase that the clothing industry,
Yes.
which is one of the highest pollutants in the world today. And there's a lot of things now being talked about sustainable fashion,
Yes.
something that's more natural, where the fibers, the fabrics, etc. So what I'm actually seeing is that we're going back in time to the hand woven, the natural fabrics, which, for example, you have in India, the
Oh,
silks
yes.
and the
Beautiful.
cottons and all of those. So when you talk about bespoke fashion and all of that, is are they promoting sustainable fashion at the higher end?
At the higher end, there is a pro, and that is, the pros are that when you're making one piece only, that's one piece only. And most of the time, that piece is not something that you throw in a landfill. So landfills are full of day wear, street wear, casual wear, quantity wear. This is really where sustainability has to take its course
Yes.
more carefully. And also from the production lines that are happening, there's always an overage in the production, because the seasons are so short and there are so many models that change so frequently. So you have trends that happen on bi-weekly, which is very fast, too fast. And then you have the fashion show events for ready to wear, which are the basic ones are 3 seasons, which is also too much because you need to produce all the sizes, all the colors. That's a
Yeah.
lot of quantities to deliver to all the world, which cannot be sold. It's not possible. It was never possible.
Yeah.
It was never discussed. But
Okay. So
I used to see how sad that was, to see all these clothes and materials and hard work going to waste, just going to waste. And it's
very
very
true.
sad. I'm glad that it's in the limelight now and that the new generation is aware. And I hope that the manufacturers take the responsibility of also making those changes. So it's not just the consumer that is
Yes.
making
Very
changes
true.
now and they're
So
more aware, but also the manufacturers.
So coming back to what you do and the fabrics that you use and the embellishments and all of those,
Yeah.
obviously, that's a very painstaking process. So how long does it take for you to create a gown, for example, for the bride or
From
for a big gala party?
first day meeting, which is normally a blank, like it's a meeting of blank, no expectations. You start on a blank piece of paper, discuss all kinds of things, all kinds of subjects, getting to know a person, getting to know their dreams, because it's trying to create a dream, which is a lifetime dream for most girls. It is a lifetime dream, the wedding dress.
Yes.
It can take anywhere from 3 months up to 6 months, depending on
Wow.
where the production is being made, whether it's a Garnetti brand, whether it's a super luxury brand, flying around, getting everything done by hand, from creating a color, because colors are created. All fabrics start off in white and then they have to be created. And even white has shades, and every other wedding dress has shades and has layers. They're not the same. So people see a dress and they go, oh, you got fabric and you do it. But no, there's a lot of layering, there's a lot of colors, there's a lot of toning, there's a lot of dyeing, and that's just the first process until you go into the beading. And even the beading is, as you're well aware from the Eastern countries, that is so vast and so big. And even those get dyed and those get created and shapes and hand sewn and samples and et cetera, et cetera. So there are processes from coloring, beading, pattern making, assembling the dress together by hand, making everything on a mannequin. The mannequin is made to measure, which means when you're measuring a client, the mannequin is there and you're working on the mannequin as if the client is standing in front of you all those months, so that everything is very accurately done. And then there's the measurements that have to be taken perfectly. There are fittings that have to be done so that if there are any changes in the body as the process of the dress is going through, you don't end up with a shock at the end. So, and as you know, females change a lot. We have our
It's
hormones.
very time consuming. So
It's very time consuming.
yeah. So
But it's very
Jessica,
beautiful. It's
but
very detailed.
yeah. So when you're spending so much time on one creation,
Yes.
and that involves a lot of time,
Yes.
how do you justify expenses? Because you're so focused on doing this, you're not generating income from somewhere else because you're focused on this. So how do you justify the cost? Because there has to be some kind of a cost at the end, that this dress or this creation will cost you so much. And you have to build in all the stuff that you do, all the expertise, all the hours. So how do you balance that as a business? Because it takes a lot of your time.
It takes a lot of time. It takes absolutely a lot of time. And it's a huge responsibility, because you're not only in charge of the gown, you're in charge of the atelier of whoever the people are that are putting it all together with all the team. You're in charge of the client. You're in charge of the family of the client. You're in charge of the groom and of their family of the client and all the invitees, because everybody has to be happy and everything has to be perfect. So it is a huge responsibility. There's no doubt about it. And how, to answer your question of how do you balance, first of all, like any other business, whether it's a very luxury couture gown or anything else that you do, you have to calculate that into the costs.
Yes.
And at the end, it has to cover all these costs and expenses. Otherwise, it's not possible to do it. This is why, right from the beginning, I said it's a very expensive business to get into, because it is an expensive business to get into, and because everything is expensive. If you want luxury fabric, it's expensive. If you want a piece of antique fabric that's 1 meter, it's expensive. If you want someone to sit and hand thread one piece by one piece, and it's not by machine, it's expensive. So the first thing to know is already that you're starting with something expensive, and the client is aware that that's what they want. So of course the prices are analyzed accordingly. And aside from that, to answer also your questions, not only from a business perspective, which is how it's done, that everything is calculated, but also from my personal experience of what I do, because I do Garnetti weddings, which is all the luxury weddings for my private clients. The beautiful part of it is I have a lot of other aspects and channels in my life, but that's something that happened historically and naturally. It's not something that was planned mathematically. Mathematically happened automatically. So going from pret-a-porter to writing books to doing posture catwalk training, which is very important, because you don't want to walk on a stage flimsy and not confident. And if you've never been on stage and you have to be on stage all of a sudden, you better be prepared, because it's not easy. So I do the training. I do other projects in art. I do show productions. I donate my time. I do charity time. So there's many other channels in the
Where
fashion
you
industry
which
and in the
which
art
brings in,
industry that
is
is
this
being
something
fed
that
into
brings in,
Jessica.
is this something that brings in that extra income that can, where you can balance it out?
I think that gives extra open mind and
Okay.
extra time that there may be to use efficiently and wisely. And that also creates an added income.
Okay, so here's my last question to you.
Yes.
How do you maintain your health? Uh, because
I love you,
your mind
Sandy.
is always busy, you're always working on a deadline, you're doing multiple tasks that involves creativity, attention to detail. So what's your secret?
You know what, Sandy? You just said something that no one has ever asked and no one has ever even cared about. Because it's all, what you see at the end. It's not the process. So
Yeah,
how do I
but
take care of myself?
I'm
That's a
interested in
very good question.
I'm interested in Jessica the person. So come on, share that with us.
All right. So I could tell you I've had different stages in my life because it's now 4 decades I'm doing this. I can't say what I did in the beginning is what I'm doing now because you go through changes of being a woman simply and growing in different ways, physically and mentally. So what I'm doing right now is different than what I did before. But I must tell you, I have fallen ill too many times. And the only people that know that are two doctors that have been in my journey, in my life for 40 years, and they have seen the severity of my illnesses due to the stress,
Yeah.
due to overworking, due to forgetting about myself, due to not having a proper place to sleep and eat at a regular time, and no time to even walk because you can't even walk. You're so exhausted at the end. You really feel like your soul is coming out of your ears. It's exhausting. So it's not. I've had a lot of issues with health, and I know a lot of people in this industry are
Yes.
like. It's not out of the ordinary what I'm saying, but a lot of people don't know that. So yes, there are a lot of health issues that you face. Definitely, physically, it's a tough system on your body to take and on your mind to take, and you
Okay.
pay the price for that. But also the way to resolve that is I'm blessed with two things that help me always come back into shape, that help me always spring back on my feet. One is my food. Since I was born until now, I'm very, I'm not picky with my food, but I am selective. I only eat healthy, normally homemade food. If I'm on the road, I will select fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, fresh everything. I am not a person who eats delivery. I'm not a person that lives on takeouts. I'm not a person who, even as a teenager, went to all the fast food places. I don't like it. I don't like the taste of it, and I don't want to be a part of it. I love good quality food of any kind from
Excellent.
any country. So
Excellent.
this
Yes.
is the source that brings me back. That's one source. The second source is I'm a person who loves nature. So just going out for a walk, it can be in a desert, in a park, in the forest, on a beach, in the mountains, just going out for a walk and refreshing with fresh air and not having technology around me and not having anything around me, just to clean everything out, breathe properly. That also brings me back. And the third and foremost, most important for me always is the love of family, friends, and neighbors. That is the most beautiful energy and the most beautiful aura that comes to you and lifts you up. And this is precious and it's so important. And I'm blessed to have people around me that love me, starting from my family onwards. And the faith in God is the superpower that is my whole structure internally. So if things fall out everywhere else, the core is my spirituality, and that keeps the falling bones and muscles and stomach and whatever else is happening, trying to gather it all back up
So
again. So that's my answer.
wonderful. Excellent, darling. And on that wonderful note, we'll bring this webinar to an end because it's a lovely way of telling people that no matter what's happening in the world, the fashion, the pressures, the deadlines, whatever it is, at the end of the day, you need to look after yourself. And one of the
Absolutely.
most important things that you mentioned is good food and communing with nature. I think those are the two things that most of us forget about.
Yes.
And for you to make that concluding statement, it's going to remain in people's minds for a very long time.
I hope so. I hope
Yes.
that is, I think, the very important statement. I thank you, Sandy, for this time. And it's lovely that we're able to share. It's lovely that we're able to speak. And I hope that anything that we can do positively to affect anyone positively is a big honor and a big
Yes.
step forward. I thank you for that. I thank you for your show and for your inspiration always as
Thank
an
you very much,
inspirational woman.
Yes, Jessica. Thank you very much for making the time to actually be on the show with me, considering the time difference. And I know that you must be busy. So, ladies, thank you very much for joining us today. All of you who are uh, there watching us now, who will watch us later. It's been a wonderful 45 minutes with Jessica. And
Likewise.
Jessica, just to let you know, this video is going to be uploaded directly onto YouTube. And so I will be sharing that link, and I encourage all people watching and all our supporters and those who are with us to please subscribe to our Celestia YouTube channel and also to our Celestia Instagram page. We want you to like, we want you to comment, we want you to subscribe, and we want you with us every week. So, on that, God bless. Till next time.
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you, Celestia.